Okay, so this evening we have an interesting topic that I'm looking forward to because I kept hearing about this place called GitHub, and I heard about it because a lot of people who write software for Wikipedia store their stuff on GitHub, but I didn't know how it works, or who can put stuff on it, or how you get it on and off, or any of these things. So we have Peter Camilleri, is that how Camilleri here tonight, who knows these things and is going to explain them to us, and we'll all be so much better educated by the end of the evening. Okay.
Howdy. As you probably have guessed, my name is Peter Camilleri. I'm a member of the club. And I have a whole bunch of reasons for wanting to talk about Git and GitHub. You'll notice the first thing is the title says free tools for content creators, not just programmers. I'll get to that in a second. But first, you don't work for the CP Rail for as long as I did and not have some legalese. So I have to have disclaimers in case anyone knows. So I have no association with the Git team or the GitHub Corporation or Microsoft or the Linux team or any of them or Linus Torvalds. Okay, it's just me. And I'm not selling stuff. Okay, so no timeshares, no hot stock tips. Okay. Yeah, right. Yeah, sell everything. Hide it in a sock under your bed.
That would have been good advice last week.
But I digress. And that's not stock advice, by the way, so I can't give you any. And I really want to just raise awareness about these tools that are free, which is the kind of price that I like on a fixed income like I am. And my target is people who create digital content of any kind. And now that would include normally programmers. Yes, they create programs, that's digital content. But it also includes people like who write, or who design pictures, or who create websites or things like that. And this is not a course on Git and GitHub. There's no way I can cover them. So let's progress. So, what is Git? That's the first question. And I'm hoping these aren't my charts. I really did work on making them readable. They're readable? Okay, great. So, there's the fancy answer. That's kind of it's slightly simplified from what Wikipedia said. Git is what's called a version control system, which means a piece of software used to track how a document changes over time. Okay, and it is super useful to programmers for a whole bunch of reasons. It's also super useful to a person who writes murder mystery novels, because they can go back to a previous version of the manuscript and figure out, maybe I worded it better back then, without having to obsessively print out hundreds of manuscripts and have them littering their house. They can just go back through version control and say, oh, what was it like? Now, you notice it says that it can be used to track changes in almost any set of files. If your idea of digital content is 4K resolution video files, right, you may need to look elsewhere, because I think you will murder Git and GitHub. They can't handle things where one block is a gigabyte. It would go to its limit. Okay, but so goals. The goals are, they're written there: speed, integrity, and support for nonlinear workflows. So let's break that down just a little bit, shall we? Speed means Git tries not to waste your time. I've used version control systems going way back to the MS-DOS days. I was using version control systems in 1992, and they were slow. If you had to move a lot of documents or update a lot of documents, you went and you had coffee. Or maybe coffee and a donut. Bagel. Anyway, in a move to take away unauthorized worker breaks, they've made Git really fast. You know, I always thought I didn't like doing this protocols. So what's GitHub? GitHub is a big company. Okay? It is a website, and it is a website that implements Git, the program, on the web. Okay? It does it on a much larger scale than, for example, I have Git on this little tiny anemic old laptop here. Okay? They have it running on super servers. Very powerful. But it's the same program, just a matter of scale. All right? This is GitHub has a little controversy on it because GitHub is now part of Microsoft. When that happened, there was a non-trivial contingent of the GitHub community who fell into the never Microsoft camp. And they said they were going to move their business elsewhere. You know, they were going to go someplace else. But really, there isn't a lot better than GitHub. There really isn't. There are others, but they're all small in comparisons, and their services aren't as expansive. In fact, one of the first things Microsoft did, when you created a repository on GitHub, it used to be that if it was open, anyone could see it. It was free. Anyone could get that. But if you wanted privacy, you wanted a private repository, you had to pay money. Okay? Microsoft turned that around. They said, no. Here's what I think happened. They probably said, after buying GitHub, we are going to save so much money that we'll just say that, no. Anyone can have a private repository now. So as far as I'm concerned, Microsoft taking them over was really good because they had the deep pockets. Okay? And this gives you an idea of the scale of GitHub. There are 40 million users, okay, with over 100 million repositories, and 28 million are free. And yeah, it is one of the largest accumulations of source code in the world. There's so much code in GitHub that when they want a survey to find out what is the most popular programming language in 2019, all they do is they go to GitHub and they count how many postings were there for Java, how many for JavaScript, how many for C, C++, etc. And they just rank them according to how much activity there was on GitHub. Because GitHub reflects world activity of coding. Now, this is supposed to be interactive. If anyone has a question, please interrupt, please, no problem. Okay. Oh, I did leave something out, which is workflows. And this is probably something that no one here is going to worry about. But if you have more than one programmer working on something at a time, there's always the risk that two of them will try to edit the same file at the same time. And the result is usually chaos. GitHub smooths all that out. Version control smooths that all out. Okay. So where did Git come from? I kind of already hinted at that. Git comes from the mind of Linus Torvalds. Slightly controversial figure. But it was written when they were trying to get releases of the Linux kernel out. The Linux kernel is a very complicated piece of software being worked on by a lot of people. So you have a big piece of software with many pieces, and you have many programmers working on those pieces. You can imagine that without some way of coordinating all that work, it would have been a disaster. And Torvalds looked at all the available tools at the time, and they were either a buttload of money, but even if they were free, they were all slow and very cumbersome. Now, to give you an idea, you're trying to be productive. This checking things into version control is basically overhead when you twiddle your thumbs. some of these software packages were taking half a minute to do each package they worked on. And there are 250 packages in the Linux kernel. That comes to 125 minutes, 2 hours and 5 minutes of twiddling your thumbs, which is kind of frustrating in the extreme. So his goal for GitHub, or sorry, Git, correct myself, was to get it down to under a second per file. Now we go from 2.5 hours to 2 minutes. You can see the advantage. The name Git is English slang for, I'm told, this is not quite what Linus said. I can't use such language in public. Yeah, an old, unpleasant person. Also not up there is the fact that Torvalds once quipped that he is a sort of egotist, I won't say the kind, and that he names everything after himself. Linux is named after him, it's Linus Unix. And Git is apparently also named after himself. An unpleasant person, so there you go. I've never subscribed to this. I like using Git so much to get work done that I see Git as a productivity booster. When I don't have to worry that I could make a change and not be able to go back. I don't have to cloud my mind with backup strategies and fork strategies and development strategies. I can just get programming. So to me, the slogan for Git should be like from the old South. They all say, "Yo, get her done." That would be "get it done" if you want to use an Ontario accent. Okay, why does Git matter? I was thinking, this sounds like a very esoteric tool. So let's take a look. In 2007, one day I turned my computer on and it went. I said, that doesn't sound good. I turned it off, I turned it on again, and it didn't do that again, but it went, beep, no hard drive. Please insert media. I said, this can't be good. So I called up I was living in Pennsylvania at the time. I called up he wasn't my cousin at the time. He hadn't married my cousin, but a good friend who does basically geek doctor kind of work. And I told him what happened, and he talked me through all the steps. And he said, nope, you got a dead hard drive. So I took it over to a place I knew had data recovery. And they looked at it and hooked it up to their special machine and said, nope, you got a dead hard drive. I mean, what do you mean? He says, well, it won't even talk to the diagnostic machine. What's my option? I said, well, we can send it down to this place in Colorado, and they can take the drive apart, and they can take the platters out, and they can put it in another machine, and they can get your data out, and it will cost about $2,000. I paid. What can I say? I had too much work on that thing, and I had only myself to blame for being in that predicament. So, I eventually got my drive back after 2 weeks. And they didn't bring me the drive back. They put all the data onto another drive, which I could use for whatever. And it's kind of the most expensive hard drive I've ever bought. So I figured to myself, I'm going to be smart. I will buy 2 hard drives, and I'll put them into the machine, and I will configure them in the BIOS to be a RAID array. So that one drive packs it in, the other drive will carry on as if nothing went wrong. I also instituted a policy of backing the machine up every week. And I did something else. I started using GitHub. Okay, it was around 2013. That's when I began making commits into GitHub. And all my work went into GitHub. Now, let's fast forward to, I believe it's 2018. 2018, I have another moment when the machine freaks out. But this time nothing blew up. Thank goodness. But the BIOS got erased. I said, that's annoying. Darren, why did that happen? So I said, oh, restore the defaults ago. And suddenly I realized, oh no, the defaults do not understand my RAID array. I should have gone in and reconfigured the RAID array first, then booted. Well, it booted not knowing the drives were supposed to be mirroring one another, and it completely and utterly corrupted the file system, irrecoverably. It's like, oh, what do I do? But I said, wait a minute, I have the recovery CD. I booted from that, and I said, well, I reconfigured the BIOS so that it was a RAID array again. I booted from the recovery CD, and I recovered. It's like, yeah, it worked. It worked. It took a little over 2 hours, but it worked. But it's like, what about the last week of work? I said, well, I know projects I worked on. I went into each project, and I did a command called git pull that says, take the repository in the cloud, GitHub, and if there's stuff on there that's newer than what's on my hard drive, I'll bring it on that. So I lost about a half a day, but I did not lose a single line of code I had written. Partly due to the fact that I was now using GitHub on the cloud backup of all my important files. So that really got me in the Git and the GitHub camp. Well, the reason I'm here today was that in 2018, I believe Fred, I wish he were here, gave a talk about Android programming. If anyone remembers, that was the time that was Christmas, and we were in the choir room in the back because we couldn't get this room. And he gave a fascinating talk about Android programming. And one of the things he kind of mentioned off sort of as a throwaway was that he'd written 10 Android programs. But I thought, that's good. I'd love to see that, those programs, so I can learn from them, right? And he said, no, you can't look at them because I had a hard drive malfunction, and the hard drive got reformatted, and they were all lost. I thought to myself, this isn't right. As a person whose entire life has programmed for a living, to me, to lose programs is like someone accidentally throwing a Da Vinci out in the trash. It's not something that you want to ever see happen. So that's why I'm here talking about Git and GitHub for content creators. Okay, here we go. Now, first of all, I know that I'm really going a mile a minute. Has anyone got any questions before I go on? Okay. Do you all get the general gist of what Git and GitHub are about? Okay. Git is version control. GitHub is keeping your data safe on the cloud. And you can either keep it public or private. I won't lie, everything I work on is public. I want people to look at my code and learn from it. If they don't like my code, they can make a comment on it and say, you should fix this. This isn't right. That's okay. Constructive criticism. Yes?
Okay, I have a question. I know, for instance, if you put things on Facebook, Facebook likes to take control of that content, and maybe even if you erase it,
It goes around.
Oh, okay. So I'm wondering, does Microsoft have any control over your files, or any either physical control or like copyright issues or any
Sure.
of that kind of stuff?
Microsoft does not regulate what goes into your repositories. If you use a staggering amount of space, they will charge you money for that space used. But I have never gotten near the bound. I've been using it since, for the last 7 years, and I am less than a tenth of the way to where it would have to be to spend money. And even then, it's $7 a month. It's not exactly a lot. The only places I've seen Microsoft do restrictions are kind of forced on them by the Department of Homeland Security in the United States, and that they are not allowed to operate, to offer GitHub into countries where there are trade or other embargoes, or where the country is being denied access to technology. So, like North Korea, if you live in North Korea, you can't get to GitHub. You're not allowed to deliver GitHub to North Korea.
If you make content and you put it on one of these open repositories, what are the licensing arrangements?
You get to determine that. You get to determine, you need to specify a license. And I always use the MIT license, which is basically says, the stuff is free, do with it what you will, put it in a product if you want to, but if the code blows up and causes serious harm, you can't sue me. Okay, so, don't put it in a heart-lung machine, please. Okay, or something that, or the navigational system for a jet airliner. I'm pretty sure Boeing is not using my code.
Are you sure?
I don't know, but they can't sue me for it, right? That's the main thing. So yeah, the terms are very, very, very liberal. The only thing I know of was they had a problem with the Turkish government when someone started posting the email account of one of the ministers of that country, where the email account had been hacked illegally. And so someone was posting copies of the illegally obtained emails of this minister in this country. And so they had to shut that down. So I mean, unless you're committing a felony by posting it, you're probably okay. Microsoft is pretty laissez-faire, as they say. So, trying to teach Git or GitHub is probably beyond the scope of what I can do in this talk in a reasonable amount of time. So what I'm going to do instead is focus on what I like to use the most in GitHub and Git. Okay? I mean, there are over 36 GitHub commands. And I only use a few of them. And I only use them in simple ways. Now, if you ever get to a situation where you're managing a team of many, many programmers, okay, and they're all working away, and they're all creating branches of code, very complicated. I hope by then you'll also have developed the skills to manage such a team. But since most of you are going to be like me, a sole developer, a lot of the complexity goes away. So let's take a look. First command. What's it? Git status. You can ask Git what's going on with my repository. And it will do things like looking for files you have added. It will look for files you've changed. Okay? It will look for files that are pending commit. That is to say, they're in limbo between Git has recognized this file and the new contents, but it hasn't yet made the transition to being part of the committed repository. Still in limbo. And finally, it'll tell you if your copy of the repository is in sync with the one in GitHub. Okay?
Who does the modifications on those? You?
Sorry?
Is it you that does the modifications?
Yeah. Let's say it's a program, you go in there, or it could be your novel, the manuscript, you go in there, you just type away, and
But
you say.
it has to be you.
It has to be someone using your machine.
Right. Okay.
Okay, I mean, you could have GitHub set on a Git set, you could have your folder set in a network drive, and there could be multiple files, and you could have multiple newsmen all working on a separate file, and you can see what files have been changed. And you can tell them all to save, and you can say, oh man, these articles are new, and these articles have been updated. Okay. So that's the next one. And that is what I call the shampoo instructions. We all know shampoo, don't we? What is it now? Wet hair, lather, rinse, repeat. It's only that, right? So this is the same thing. I forgot repeat, darn it. So edit is people editing, right? Add means add the files I tell you to be considered, to be part of, to be committed to the repository. That's an intermediate step. Commit says, take all the things I've added and add them to the repository. So now the changes you've made have become part of your local repository on your local machine. So far so good? And finally, push. Okay, take these work and push the changes out to the cloud. I did that every day, several times a day. And because I pushed my changes to the cloud, I didn't lose anything. All right? So those are the shampoo instructions. And none of these commands is complicated. Usually, if you look at it, right, git add files. You just list the files you're adding. But if you're in the root folder of the thing you're working on, which is usually where you'll be, you go git add, and that's supposed to be a dot. And that just says to git add files starting from here. That's what dot means in Linux, and even in Windows. So it just says, look for all the changes and add them all in. Okay? This presentation is in Git and GitHub. It does actually show the one Achilles heel of GitHub with some applications. This was done in OpenOffice, and OpenOffice creates lock files, and it has the file open in a kind of a currently being massaged state. Sorry.
Just a question, Peter, about the files.
Yes.
When you add more than one, there must be a separator between the names of the files. What type of separator would it be?
Space.
Okay. Easy.
Nothing complicated. It is really easy that way. Git is a very simple program that when you try to do very complicated things, becomes more complicated itself. But if you're like most people, and like me, doing simple things, just wanting to not lose your files, Git is simple. Okay? Yes?
Is there an interface to that, or is that from the DOS prompt?
Currently, yes. There is. Yes, you can do it from a command prompt, which is how I learned it. There is a GUI, and I was showing you that too. And there's the GitHub website, so you can do it from a browser. So it's really flexible, no matter how you want to work with it. Okay, it's good that way. It doesn't force you to do one or the other. Old school Git users would be using the command line, because any Linux hardcore person will tell you, we don't need no stinking GUI. We use the CLI. Give me a bash shell. So, where was I? Oh yeah, where was I? Okay. So, if you do simple things, Git is really easy. So I'm going to mention the few commands, and I'll be honest, I almost never use these commands. I mean, these are what I'm going to call, I think I've gone over the core 15 or so commands. I think at Baker's dozen actually, it's 13. So init creates a new repository. Create a new grouping of information. How often do you do that when you start a new project?
On your hard drive?
Yes. Okay. And you can do the same thing in GitHub, and then you push it from your repository up to GitHub. And GitHub actually tells you what you need to type. It's like they don't leave you in the lurch. GitHub is constantly trying to make it easy for you. So, go ahead.
Do we need to know this Git and GitHub for Linux?
Only if you create content. GitHub, Git and GitHub itself works under Windows, 32 and 64-bit, it doesn't care. It works under Mac OS X. I don't know about OS 9. I'm not that knowledgeable in that. And it works under more than 24 distros of Linux. So it does a lot. And you can even get a version of Git for Windows that doesn't need to be installed. It will run from the thumb drive. They call it Git Portable. So you can have your entire Git work on a thumb drive, plug it into a machine, do all your Git work on this machine, and unplug it, and you won't have left any of your files on that machine. It's really good that way. Especially getting help. Cheap thumb drive. Yes?
if your content that you're making is not text files and things like that, but what if it's like a Microsoft Publisher document or something like that, or a video that you're making or something like that? Is it suitable for that, or is it mainly for smaller documents?
Well, it works the best with text files of some description. But this is not an open office, which is not that different from Microsoft Office, and it works perfectly well with that. I already mentioned the problem with videos is they get too big. Okay, so if you're dealing with something that involves gigabytes, you need to look at another backup strategy.
Well, PDF files would be okay?
PDF file, I have the PDF of this presentation on GitHub. And GitHub knows that when you click on a PDF file, it says, oh, this is a PDF file. Maybe they want to see the PDF file. So it has built into it a PDF viewer, so you can actually view the PDF file and see it. So in fact, I could be doing this presentation from GitHub. The only thing is, it puts a little GitHub-y stuff around the borders, so I thought this was better for that purpose. So in it creates a repository. These repositories all existed originally on my desktop machine, and I wanted to bring them down into this laptop. So I used git clone to clone them onto my local hard drive. Okay. You use pull for updates. If you want to see what you've been doing, you'd use the log command. Okay, which just basically says, I know I've been working on this, show me the commit messages. Because when you do a commit, you're supposed to do a description of what it is you've done, right? And you have a choice. If it's something really short, you can just put a few words in quotes with a dash in front of it. And that's for really brief comments. And most people I know of discourage that one. If you just go git, commit, enter, it'll open up a text editor for you. And it'll describe in comments what it is you're doing. And then you can tab down to the cursor down to the uncomment area, and you can put whatever text you want, and you're not limited to what fits on a quote string in the command line. But anyway, if you do a log, you get to see all of the messages you've been writing to yourself about what was done here. Or more importantly, if there's more than one person working on it, you can see what they've said when they did commits. They can say fixed bug number 12. You can go look that up. Okay. The next two, almost, if anyone has any familiarity with Linux, the next two are the move and RM equivalents in Git. Move is used in Linux to move files or rename them, and RM is used to delete files. So occasionally you need to do that. Diff shows changes in a file. Let's say I've been working on a file, and I want to say, before I commit these changes, maybe we all should review what we've done. So you do a diff on it, and you look through it, and you say, oh, I didn't need to do that. And you go back and fix it, or, oh, I forgot to do something. So it lets you know what you've done to change the file in detail. Now, if it's a binary file, like a PDF or something like that, you can't do that. You just have to say it's a new file, put it in as is. And finally, help. Git has a good help system built into it. And if you go Git help and you name a topic or a command, it'll open up a web page, and it will have way more detail than you ever wanted to see about that command. It's like the Encyclopedia Britannica version of that command. Okay, so are we okay so far? I'm not losing anyone in the dust. I hope not. I hope I'm speaking clearly. Okay. So I decided I was going to be snazzy. So where do you get Git? Git is available. I should have mentioned from the outset, you don't have to hide your phones. But Git is available from that website, and I actually checked all of these. They do actually take you to the right website. So there's where you go get Git, and again it mentions Linux, Unix, Mac OS X, Windows and Windows Portable 32 or 64-bit. And here's a great way if you want to learn more about Git. Go to YouTube and search for the topic Git space tutorial. That's what that QR code is. Okay? And you will find a lot of videos talking about Git and GitHub. General rule of thumb, restrict yourself to videos that are less than a year old. Because you don't want to be pulling up someone working with a 4-year-old video working with an ancient version of Git and wonder why you try typing the same commands and they don't work out. That was the first one I mentioned, Git for beginners. I'm going to go through these quickly. And that one purports to teach Git in 15 minutes. And that's okay. That's nothing like the second coming. And finally, believe it or not, this talk, like I said before, is on GitHub. So I believe that's our talk. Now, what I'd like to do is close this down, fire up. I think I'll fire up. This is just a browser. This is just a browser. And let's go to, this is a very slow laptop, I should warn you. Hang on. Where'd it go? Ah, there it is. It's uppercase. It's case-sensitive sort, I should have known. So in fact, it doesn't look like much, does it? But this is this presentation. There's the original file for OpenOffice, and there's the PDF. If I click on the PDF, the little GitHub squid does its job, and there's my PDF file. So in fact, anyone can go and download this presentation, no problem. This is an open repository. It's under the talks subfolder of the ideas project. My ideas project is just a big laundry hamper of all the ideas I come up with. I create a folder under there. I put files into it. I experiment with them. I keep them around just so that I can find out where the ideas came from. Okay, and this is one of them. And let me show you something here. If I go here, now this is just a command line. If I go Git Status, it tells me that my branch is all up to date with what's on the server. There's nothing to commit, and the working tree is clean. Now, if I wrote this command a while ago here, talks. If I fire up test.txt, sorry?
What was the command here?
Here is a program. It's a batch file. And they're also up there in the repository under Git commands. And all it does is, it's a tiny little batch file that all it does is wherever your command line prompt is now, open up a folder for that. It's the same as going explorer space dot. But here is a lot easier to remember and type. Okay, so I'll just put down stuff. I'll save that. Close that down and go back here. Now when I go I'll just do this. Here we go. It says, oh, look at that. You have a modified file. Now, if I go, I have a short form for it called D. All D does is do a git differences. And it tells me, you deleted that line that says some more, and you added a line that says some more stuff. So I say, that's a very important change to my program. So I'll do git add everything. And there's a warning that the Git repositories all assume Linux file endings. This reflects the fact that it was written by Linus Torvalds, who developed Linux. But Git knows that I'm on a Windows machine. So it translates for me, so I don't have to worry about it. On a Mac machine, you would have got a similar remark, because I believe the Mac uses, are there any Mac experts? Okay, I believe the Mac uses character returns only, whereas Windows uses character return and line feed, and Linux uses line feeds only. Now, you don't have to worry about any of that nonsense when you use Git and GitHub. It handles all that for you, so you don't have to worry about this such trivia. So there it is. Now, if I go status, oh gosh, you got to type, you know. It says, there's now a file, it's been modified, but you notice it's in green now. That means it's staged, it's ready for committing. So I'll just go git, commit, and I'm going to use a short message. No, come on. Type. There we go. Awesome update. Okay, now when I go Git Status, it tells me that your branch is ahead of the master branch by 1 commit. Okay, so what's on this hard drive is now out of sync with what's on the cloud. So I go git push, push. As you can see, I don't use this keyboard a lot. And it's going to do a little bit of work. Depends how fast your internet is. There it is. And this is all secure, by the way. None of this stuff goes up there unencrypted. It's all RSA encoded. It uses the good stuff. Now when I ask for status, it says we're back to, we're clean, we're up to date with the host system, we've got nothing to commit, and the tree is clean. And I hope that's given you a little taste of what Git and GitHub are about. Are there any further questions?
That HTTPS address there?
Yes.
It has ideas.git. Is that your ideas folder or something?
Let's see which one we're looking at here. Yeah, you're right. HTTPS, this is actually the path to the repository that I'm updating on the host. So it is https github.com/Peter Camilleri/ideas.git. That is the repo in the cloud that's being updated. In fact, I might as well show you this. I'll go. Where am I? Yes, good. I want to make sure I'm in the right folder. Now, let me try something else. Let me show you how easy it is to pull a repo down, to bring it back. Let's say, for argument's sake, I wanted to pull out, let's not go crazy here. Give me 1 second. All right. Let's pull down this tiny little repository. You'll notice, oh, mine doesn't fit on the screen. Oh, well, okay, here we go. You'll notice it says, to clone this repo, you need to copy this. So I'm going to click on that. And give me an idea what I mean. So I'll say git pull, space, then I go paste. There's the path to the repo I want. Go enter. All right, this is the old, sorry, my bad. I wanted to go clone, not get, not pull. There it is. And now pull that code down onto this machine. And if I go ls, you see that there's now the insouciant repository has been pulled down onto this machine. If I go here, I can open it up, and there's all my code. That's how easy it is to pull stuff down. Yes, go ahead, sorry.
Now, if you have a friend who also likes to program and you want to share some code, you just give them the URL, and so
Sure.
can they change the stuff on the GitHub, or can they only change the copy on their own computer?
So there are a few ways of doing it. They don't even need to know the URL. They just need to know the name of the repository, and they can search for it and find it. And they can always clone it onto their own. Now, this is getting a slightly more complicated command, but they could do a branch on that code, create new stuff on the branch, and then they could push it back and do what they call a pull request, which is asking you, the author, to bring their changes in. And as author, you get to look at it and say, well, this was supposed to be a program for running code without errors, but they seem to have stuck in this thing to steal MasterCard numbers. I don't think this is a good change to make, and you could reject it maybe. Or maybe they found a bug in your code and it's like, ooh, okay, and then you get to pull these changes in. Alternatively, if this person's going to be doing a lot of work, you could set up the repository and add them as a contributor, so that they can do pushes directly and work on it with you. But now we're getting into a slightly more complicated regime of using Git and GitHub.
So is this the open source programs that are created?
Almost without exception, open source programs are created in Git and GitHub. In fact, before they bought Git and GitHub, Microsoft had several dozen large open source projects already on GitHub. And for all their internal stuff, they were maintaining their own version control software. So it was getting really ugly. They had two systems. One, which was virtually free for them, and the other cost them literally hundreds of millions of dollars a year to maintain. And the programmers hated it. Okay, so they spent something like $7 billion to buy GitHub. And from every account, they think it's a bargain. Because now all their programmers are happy, and now they can have all the private repositories they want. And they get to call the shots, and apparently they're choosing to be generous. How's that? Okay, any last questions? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hearing me out.
Thank you very much, Peter, and you get a free, well, it's not free because you earned it, you did all this work.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
One of the club USB keys. And I guess, and we're going to have a little break.
Yes, I